I'm Dr. Michael Lutola.
And I'm Megan Strong.
On today's Case of the Week, we have more mouth guards than you can shake a stick at. Are women taking over dentistry? A new survey
shows that they are, and this woman's taking over this opening. We also have got some more news stories and the viewer mail for you, all coming up on this episode of Chairside Live.
Oh, great. Awesome. Real good job. Yeah. And welcome to episode 49 of Chairside Live. Megan, how are you doing today?
I'm well rested. I'm doing well. How about yourself?
I'm slightly sleep deprived.
Okay.
And if you catch me snoring, feel free to take an Avio TSD and just shove it right into my mouth.
You got it.
Pull my tongue forward, open my airway. It's been a couple long flights back and forth to the East Coast to hang out with some dentists, but it was a fantastic trip. But I'm glad to be home and be here with you. Yes. Doing another episode of Chairside Live. We've got an interesting case of the week for you. I was walking through our removable department, and there's many products made in the removable department. One of them happens to be our PlaySafe mouth guards, and dentists often don't know the different types of mouth guards that are available to them and what sports they might be indicated for, so I thought a closer look would be a good idea. So let's go ahead and take a look at the case of the week. I was walking through the removable department the other day and happened to be walking by the section of the laboratory where we make our PlaySafe appliances, and I realized that we've never really talked about PlaySafe. We're starting to see RXs come in again as early football season gets started. Not the season, but the early practices get started. Now there's so many other sports we see them for as well. So just wanted to show you a little bit about how these appliances were made. So for example, this is going to be for one called the Heavy Pro, and this is the heaviest and thickest one that we make. And you can see it's got nice coverage, obviously covers the palate and then up beyond the teeth onto the soft tissue as well. And because it's the Pro, it actually gets a bonus layer added onto the front that you can see here, because that's where most of the impacts take place, is on those front teeth. So we've got that first layer, and then we've got the bonus layer, extra layer on those anterior teeth to help with the shock. And then finally we get the color layer on the very outside of it, the colored layer on top of it. So we have those three different layers there, and this makes it the strongest one that we have. So again, this is the Heavy Pro, and this one's interesting because you can see like the sort of camouflagey colors, and then it's reversed on the inside. So camouflage there and red there and camouflage there. And red there with the American flag on the front to prove that that you're a patriot. And so with these three layers, this is really popular for sports where you just plan on getting hit, like it's part of the sport. So this would be for like boxing or MMA, martial arts, anything where you know for a fact you're going to get hit in the mouth, because this is our kind of our ultimate level of protection. So if you're going to be taking some blows, you definitely want to go with the Heavy Pro. Well, but we also have a Heavy, and if we look at that, it's a layer that we have here, again just as thick as the one before, but instead of having that extra layer in the front, it's got what we call some dispersion bars going around here to help disperse any blow that you might get. So it ends up being a little lighter because it doesn't have that extra layer that the Heavy Pro does, and then it ends up getting a colored layer on top of that. So really just two layers here with the addition of the dispersion bars, and this, you know, is used for things like football, hockey, rugby, this heavy things. These are things where there's a chance you'll get hit, but it's not a 100% chance like boxing. I'm going to guess this is being made for a female just because of the butterfly that's on there and the glitter color. I'm guessing this isn't one of the ones that we made for an MMA guy. Although if you've seen Ronda Rousey fight in the MMA and take out, I think, 7 women in a row by armbar in the first round, she could rock one of these and still go out and dominate any opponent they put in front of her. My son wears one of these now, but what he used to wear is this. This is the PlaySafe Junior. This is the thinnest one that we have because it's made for kids and they just don't have the room in their mouth, of course, that adults do. This is the cheapest one too. This one's just $29. It's a pretty amazing value that you can get a well-made, custom-fitted mouthguard like this. Of course, in a variety of dizzying colors like this one. And actually, he plays for the Junior Ducks out here in Anaheim. And so they have made it with the Ducks logo on there for him in the colors of the Duck. So when I say custom, it's not just necessarily a Jackson Pollock painting like this. You can do it in the colors of whatever your kids' favorite sports teams are. And more leagues are requiring it. Actually, my son's league, since he started playing, has had full face masks. So he doesn't get hit nearly as often as they would, but when your head slams against the ice, you want something in between your teeth to prevent concussion. So we saw the Heavy Pro and we saw the Heavy, and there's also a medium thickness that we make. And actually the medium thickness one is, as you would expect, a 2-layer one, just kind of falls right in the middle. This is my personal one that I have just in case. I don't know, you've probably seen Megan get kind of rowdy on the set of Chairside Live before. This is where I have a patient where I think that due to the post-operative sensitivity, I may catch a fist. So this is kind of a plain one, and they do come in plain colors like this. Some people don't like the really complicated, flashy-looking ones. These get used mainly for basketball, lacrosse. Basketball is actually, as we covered in Chairside Live a week or two ago, where that player got his tooth knocked out, a sport that comes out either number 1 or 2, depending on what survey you look at. So it's a really good one for those random elbows to have this in place, to have the medium one in place. And again, because it's thinner, it's just a little more comfortable, and you're running back and forth. You're not expecting to take the kind of beating that you would in boxing, so you probably don't need a Heavy or a Heavy Pro. We also have a Light, which is kind of the adult version of the Junior, so it's the thinnest one that we make for adults, and again, probably the most comfortable one. And this would be for things where you're really not expecting to get hit at all, and even less so than basketball. And even if it did happen like in basketball, it'd probably be a little less violent. So this would be things like soccer would be a good example. We've made these for people who spend a lot of time on their mountain bikes or race mountain bikes. So again, Megan would probably be a good candidate for this, especially if it covered her entire body. So there's been people who are sponsored by Oakley, who wear these. We've seen weightlifters who wear these. I've seen studies showing that you can lift 10% more weight if you clench your teeth together. And so we've had some people who are bodybuilders who order these, and they like the feeling of being able to squeeze down on this while they're at maximum effort. And there's one last one, so that this is the Light, and then there's a Light Pro. And as you might expect, the Light Pro has that extra band in the front, kind of like the Heavy Pro did. And this is good for quarterbacks really like this. So most football players will wear a medium like this, with or without a helmet strap. The helmet strap isn't as popular as it used to be. You probably see all the players in college, stick it in their helmet, and some of the pros do it as well. So most of the players wear the medium, but the quarterbacks, because they have to call out signals and scream out to wide receivers and things like that, will go with something that's a little lighter. You can see that the Light Pro is certainly not as thick even as the medium, but it does have that extra. You can see the outline of it, that reinforced band along the anterior teeth. So because it's thinner, they can yell coyote, coyote, or whatever they yell, and they'll be able to understand them. And at the same time, if they do get hit in the front of the mouth, because they tend to have a minimal face mask, we should have enough material here to help absorb that blow. So there's really almost a thickness for every activity that you can think of where you might take a stray limb to the face, or might go flying over your handlebars, or things like that. I run a lot and do triathlon, and I've yet to get hit in the mouth, but who knows, if they find a performance-enhancing one, I might be happy to do that. And we do even have a couple celebrities who are wearing ours, at least if you follow any of the martial arts or boxing. And this is Peter Quillin, who's wearing one of our PlaySafe Mouthguards here that you can see. And it's a little hard to see in that picture, but if you look at the picture where we made it, you can see the one that we made for him. I think that's the flag of Cuba, and his nickname, Kid Chocolate, which really took me back to high school. My nickname was Kid Olive Oil, being Italian, of course. I didn't fight, but I was kind of a dancer. And so it was, I don't know why, but I kind of like that, like the sound of Kid olive oil. And so we do have some people, some famous people out there wearing it. And we see some martial art leagues where you actually have to wear uppers and lowers, and they need to be fixed together. And so this is one of those, and I guess the fangs are to intimidate your opponent. And so I guess if you smile at them, this is what they see. But really, it's a pretty nice setup of teeth when you look at it. The cuspids, a little pointy. The black gingiva, though, that is scary because that is not healthy at all. And the funny thing is, if they would have anteriorized, this lower one, just about a millimeter beyond edge to edge, this could be a good boxing and obstructive sleep apnea appliance. So really, you wouldn't have to take it out at all. You could wear it all day and then wear it at night as well.
Now let's go to a segment we call Viewer Mail. This week's viewer mail comes to us from Dr. Michael Mann in Huntsville, Alabama, and he writes, "Dear Dr. Datola, I've always micro-etched all my crowns just prior to cementation, including Bruxer, and don't have a problem with them coming off. Do I still need to use IvoClean? I use Fujisim cement."
Michael, good question, a very timely question. We just finished some research in our R&D department looking at exactly that question, and it turns out that micro-etching, or let's say sandblasting, because I think that's a little more common term. I think micro-etcher is an actual sandblaster available, say, from Danville Engineering. And we've known for a long time that when we sandblast zirconia, it doesn't do anything to the zirconia itself. In fact, zirconia oxide seems to be resistant to hydrofluoric acid. You can't etch it because there's no glass in it to remove. Sandblasting really doesn't do much to it either. And so we never really knew if, in fact, we thought it was just completely ineffective for it. And then we learned about the salivary phosphates contaminating the zirconia oxide surface of a Bruxer crown. And you're correct, our first solution was, in fact, IvoClean. And then we finally got the opportunity to do some research in our R&D department, and here's what we found. We found that sandblasting with 50 micron aluminous oxide particles at 35 psi for 15 seconds, while it doesn't do anything to the zirconia, it does in fact remove those salivary phosphate groups. And we could tell because when we then do our shear bond strength tests on there, we were getting the same results whether or not we sandblasted it or whether or not we used the IvoClean. So the choice is yours. There's a fair amount of dentists who don't have sandblasting units in their office. It's certainly a little messier to use a sandblaster than it is to use the IvoClean. For example, here at Glidewell where I practice, for me to go use the sandblaster, I have to get up from the operatory and walk. It's not that far, but it's, I don't know, a couple hundred feet to get down to where the sandblasters are, versus just reaching over, grabbing that bottle, putting a couple drops of IvoClean in it and rinsing it out. So I tend to opt for the IvoClean. Just kind of out of convenience. If we're in a hurry, if I'm getting up for some other reason or we're waiting for a camera setup, I might go sandblast it instead. So it really doesn't matter, whichever one you want to do. And you're correct, if you're not having any fall off, you do not need to change anything you're doing, and you do not need to sandblast it and use the IvoClean, that because you've already knocked off all those salivary phosphate groups. Dentists usually will ask too, do I need to do this on all crowns? And I can tell you honestly that for the first year of Bruxer crowns that I put on, we didn't even know about the salivary contamination, and all the crowns I put on were contaminated, and I put it on with Reliax luting cement, the same type of cement as your Fujisim, and none of them fell off, but they were all on preps that were at least 3 millimeters long and were not way over tapered. So really, when we talk about these maximizing bond strength of Bruxer with a zirconia primer like Z Prime Plus, and getting rid of all those contaminants on the inside, these really hold true more for those short preps under 3 millimeters or those really over tapered walls on preparations. Anything where you look at it and go, you know what, this is a low or a no retention prep. That's where we're going to want to maximize the bonding by using something like that. But there's certainly nothing wrong. I use IvoClean or sandblasting on every crown, even if it's retentive or not. So thank you so much for the question. So you're doing great by sandblasting all those, and no need for the IvoClean if you're already doing that. Megan, what does Dr. Mann win for being this week's Letter of the Week?
Well, I think first of all, you have a special little treat for him. And then, in addition to that, we have the lovely, wonderful photograph of you and I that we can sign right here now.
All right. Well, personalize it, right, to Michael and not me. And yeah, since you asked about Bruxer, Michael, I've got the Bruxer adjustment and polishing kit for you. And again, these are the burrs that will adjust, whether it's occlusal or interproximal. There's a round one for making an endo access through a Bruxer crown. And the same burrs that you use to adjust Bruxer are the same ones that you use to cut Bruxer off, because just because they fit well doesn't mean they'll never get any recurrent decay around them. So since we know you're using Bruxer, we'll send one of these kits out to you. And very happy to send this picture out to you. And I just signed it right over my face, which I think you'll find is probably the preferred way that you'd like to look at me. So thanks again, Michael, for writing in, and we'll ship these out to you, and you'll have them in your office next week. You got any news for us, Megan?
Yes. Move over, men. It seems that women may be taking over the dental field. A new survey reveals that there are now more women than men in the U.S. who are oral and maxillofacial surgeons, orthodontists, and prosthodontists. Women comprise some 57% of the oral and maxillofacial surgeons, 62% of the prosthodontists, and 57% of the orthodontists. And what about when it comes to general dentists? Well, the ladies are creeping up on the men in that category as well. Nearly half, 49% to be exact, of all U.S. dentists are female. Hello.
Wow.
Right?
Yeah, woman power. Put
That's
it here.
right.
Ouch.
Sorry.
That ring, that's impressive in its ability to sparkle and injure. I knew that from going up to my dental school that it's been creeping up. My dad was in dental school from 1960 to 64, and there was one woman in his class. And now you look at the class up at University of the Pacific, and it's 64% women, I think, when I was up there
Wow.
a couple weeks ago. But I just thought it was all general dentists. I had no idea there was more female specialists.
Right, and I know that we reported earlier in an earlier episode of Chairside Live a few months back about how there are actually now more male dental assistants and hygienists, and so it's almost like there's a shift that's happening, which is sort of cool. I feel like that's awesome that it's not just general dentists, that they're moving into surgery and orthodontics, and I just think that that's amazing and awesome, and go girl power, right?
I feel like within the next 20 years, we're going to be having the babies, the men.
Right.
And I think it'll probably just be one, and we'll go, that wasn't much fun. Let's
Sure.
let's
Good
not
luck
do
with
that
that.
again. But I don't even know, and this doesn't mean anything, I just
Right.
don't know any female oral surgeons. I
Right.
do know a couple female orthodontists and prosthodontists, but I can't believe that they passed up the men that quickly, and I'm okay with that. When it
Yeah.
comes to oral surgeons, the one that I've observed, I've seen a couple rough men.
Yeah.
You've got your oral surgery story, but I've seen
Yeah.
some where the patient's under and they're really going in there kind of taking liberties. I think a little better with a woman at the helm of maybe a violent surgery like that.
Right,
I don't know.
just maybe a little more sensitive, a little, maybe more comforting bedside manner, whatever it may be. I just feel like the womanly touch wouldn't be a bad thing necessarily when you're just cutting open your face.
And it's weird. I was in New York this week for a lecture talking to my server and one of the chefs, one of the sous chefs, and professional kitchens are just dominated by men. It's so odd that it's really difficult for women to break into those. It's another male-dominated field. But when we think of cooking, typically, at least at home,
Sure.
The tradition has been for the woman to cook at home.
Right.
But then professionally, it's been the men, and so women there are trying to make inroads. But it's actually going much faster in dentistry and in the dental specialties than it appears for anybody in the restaurants as well. So well done, women.
Yes.
You got a late start, I think, compared to when the men got into it.
Right.
And as a white male dentist, it's good to know that I'm about to be part of a minority class, and that's good. Maybe I'll get something for that. I'm not sure what,
Right.
but 10% off at Denny's. I'm not sure, but
Cookies.
yep. Anything else?
Yes. Authorities in Colorado are searching for a man suspected of stealing more than $2,600 worth of teeth whitening strips, weight loss pills, probiotics, condoms, Rogaine, and some other hair growth products from several Walgreens stores. The suspect allegedly went on a 2-day stealing spree at Walgreens across the state. Investigators say the man was wearing a sweater, tie, slacks, and a neatly groomed mustache and beard. Apparently, he carried a coat to conceal the stolen goods and would buy a DVD before leaving the store as a cover in case the door alarm went off.
Well, I'll tell you what, I'm glad this story is happening now. If this story would have happened about 7 years ago, and there was a guy who stole weight loss pills, Rogaine and condoms, I'm pretty sure I might have been suspect number one, or at least a person of interest. You know, I weighed a lot more then. I didn't have a lot of hair. Whitening strips as well. Sure, always concerned about how my teeth look as well. So that is I don't know if that doesn't sound like he just randomly starts scooping things like off the shelves.
No, and it's almost just this weird, strange twist to the story in that not necessarily there's not a usual outfit that robbers will wear, but you wouldn't suspect that he'd come in with this, a tie and slacks and a nice sweater. It's like Mr. Rogers coming to, stock up for the neighborhood. I don't know why, that he would have been dressed up like that, and just the products that he got, if you try to look at them and say, okay, Rogaine, teeth whitening strips, condoms, probiotics, like you're worried about your health too, got some digestive problems, I don't know. It's just a strange thing of what was he trying to, do with those products? Who knows? It's anyone's best guess at this point.
The only thing they all have in common was he was trying to impress a woman.
Right.
As far as I can tell. He wanted to grow hair. He wanted to lose some weight. He wanted to have a nice smile as well.
Yep.
He hoped there would be some physical intimacy.
Yes.
But he knows he's kind of gassy.
Right.
And without the probiotics, that could be super embarrassing if it gets to that point, or it won't get to that point if they're sitting in the car next to each other for a while and he just can't hold it in any longer. So men tend to be motivated by romantic interest, and I think that's the one thing that's in common out of all this.
But question, $2,600 worth?
That is a lot. The Rogaine, I think, is more expensive. I've never looked into it, but I think the Rogaine's a lot more expensive than it looks. And
or he's just really trying to get ready for that lady.
He is, whoever she might be, and she is a lucky lady.
Yeah.
Is she not? I wonder if it's you.
No.
That could be an interesting PS to this story if in a couple weeks we find out it's you. All right, well, that about wraps it up for this week's edition of Chairside Live. On behalf of myself, Megan, the robber, and the CVS, and everybody else here at Glidewell Labs, I want to thank you for your time and your continued commitment to quality dentistry.
We'll see you next time. Right, but today's are sneaky meaties, is what I like to call them.
Say what?
Sneaky meaties.
Is this a euphemism for this you and your husband?
Yeah.
All right.
Okay, no.
I'm going to try that tonight. I'm going to go home and say, hey, Lindsay, want to play sneaky meaties?
I can't even handle how funny that is. No, it's just a weird thing I came up with where it's like I make meatballs, but then I sneak vegetables. I can't even. I sneak vegetables into them. So they're sneaky meaties.
Sneaky meaties would be if you took vegetables and stuffed them with meat. This is like sneaky veggies, isn't it? Because you're sneaking the veggies
No, because the meat is being sneaky because it's got vegetables in it and you don't know. Sneaky meaties.
And he doesn't figure it out at any point?
No.
It's like a pill and peanut butter for a dog? He's just has no idea what he just ate?
No, he knows. There's no reason for me to be sneaking them. I just call them that because I came up with it. I came up with it one day and it's so stupid. And that's what I call them.
All right.